When it comes to taking an electric vehicle on a long road trip, Tesla's electric vehicles have for a while been the most practical options for long road trips, much in part due to their supercharging network and also the fact that they charge very quickly and they're very efficient. When it comes to SUVs, in my past research, the Tesla Model Y was by far the most practical electric SUV for long road trips because when compared to other electric SUVs, it needed less time charging for long road trips. However, if you've been paying attention, the market is shifting. Instead of the 10 or so electric SUVs that are available right now, by the end of 2022, there'll be somewhere around 20 electric SUVs available in the United States alone. With this new competition in mind, let's re-examine the data once again for a hypothetical trip from the Los Angeles International Airport to the Portland International Airport. And in this over 900-mile trip, we're going to look at which one of the electric vehicles based on a Better Route Planner's data will require the least amount of time to charge and see if the Model Y is still the most practical and the quickest for long road trips. Now here at the outset of the video, I do want to make mention that the vast majority of EV charging will happen at home, often overnight. However, for an electric SUV to truly replace a gas-burning SUV, it must be practical not only for daily use, but also for occasional long road trips as well. I mean, in the end, who wants to add a bunch of extra time charging to an already long road trip? I know I don't want to, and so when I look at electric SUVs, I like to look at an SUV that is practical for long road trips as well as daily use. So now moving on to the data, I have compiled data for a hypothetical over 900-mile trip from the Los Angeles International Airport to the Portland International Airport using a betterrouteplanner.com to determine the total amount of charging time and the number of charging stops that will be required for this trip. Here's what I found. As you can see on this chart, I researched 15 different all-electric SUVs that are either available right now or will be available sometime in 2022. And you can see that of the 15 SUVs on this chart, 10 of the 15 are estimated to require more than 3 hours of charging for this LAX to PDX trip. The quickest electric SUV on this list is the long-range all-wheel drive Tesla Model Y, which should only need around 1 hour and 39 minutes of charging to complete this long trip. And the slowest on this list is the Chevrolet Bolt EUV, which should need a required charging time of around 5 hours and 42 minutes. But do notice that for the first time, there are actually 2 electric SUVs that give the Model Y a run for its money. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 and also the Kia EV6, which both charge very quickly. Now, if you are new to electric vehicles, you may take a look at this chart and see that 1 hour and 39 minutes of charging needed for the Tesla Model Y, all the way up to 1 hour and 45 minutes needed for the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and you may say that's still a long time to wait for charging. However, many of the DC fast charging locations are located near restaurants and other amenities, so these charging stops can be spent resting, stretching your legs, eating, and also for bathroom breaks. I know for me personally, if I were driving this LAX to PDX trip with a gas-burning SUV like, say, the RAV4, I would still need to stop a number of times to rest, to stretch my legs, to go to the restroom, to get food, and I personally wouldn't even take this trip in a single day. This trip is probably going to take somewhere between 15 to 19 hours, and so I personally would break this up into at least 2 days. And if you're driving a Tesla electric vehicle, for instance, you might even be able to find a destination charger at a hotel, which means that you might not even have to stop as many times as a Better Route Planner thinks you might have to if you stopped and charged overnight with a destination charger. So really what I'm trying to say is that if you have an electric SUV like the ones on this list that take around 2 hours or less of charging for a long road trip like this LAX to PDX road trip, they really aren't any less practical than a gas-burning vehicle if you plan out your stops and you do your rest, your breaks, etc. at the charging stops. However, do note that if you have an electric SUV that takes really 3 hours or more and pushing into 4 or 5 hours, then that vehicle does make a road trip a lot less practical. Now, I did want to take a moment to discuss charging speeds just for a second, which of course have a huge factor in how long a vehicle needs to charge for these long road trips. Because when you look at the charging times on paper, it appears like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 since they charge so much faster than the Tesla Model Y that they should actually be in the lead when it comes to the least amount of time charging for a long road trip. As you can see on this chart, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 are able to go from a 10% to 80% state of charge much quicker than the Tesla Model Y, and are able to add an impressive 12.35 miles of drivable range per minute of charging. So based on this data, are a Better Route Planner's estimates incorrect? Well, I pulled up real-life examples by YouTuber Bjorn Nyland, and he does 1,000-kilometer road trip test for different electric vehicles, including the Tesla Model Y, the Kia EV6, and also the Hyundai Ioniq 5. In Bjorn's test, the Tesla Model Y did indeed beat the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 for the shortest time needed to complete this 1,000-kilometer trip. If you're not familiar with Bjorn's 1,000-kilometer test, basically he drives an electric vehicle and he adds up the amount of time spent driving and he tries to keep the speed as constant as possible. And then he also adds the time charging and he gets the complete time to see which one of these electric vehicles, specifically the three we're talking about here, is the quickest to travel this 1,000 miles, driving time plus charging time. In these real-world tests by Bjorn, one of the main reasons why the Model Y beat out the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 comes down to the fact that for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, their charging speeds were reduced after multiple fast charging stops and constant highway driving in order to protect the battery from being damaged by overheating. While many electric vehicles do slow slightly down in their charging speeds after repeated DC fast charging stops, the Model Y seems to have a better thermal management system and doesn't have this same problem when it comes to repeated fast charging. Because of this allows the Tesla Model Y, which technically charges slower on paper, to actually beat out the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. And I think it's also a factor because the Model Y is a little bit more efficient as well. So at the beginning of the video, I talked about the fact that in the past, the Model Y was by far the fastest charging vehicle for long road trips. Now, as you see the chart I put up earlier here, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and also the Kia EV6 are extremely close. So, is the Model Y really clearly still the best when it's so close for these charging times? I would answer that question with a yes because of a few factors that I want to talk about that really add a few points to the Tesla Model Y and push it over the edge as once again the clear leader as the most practical electric SUV when it comes to long road trips. The first of those factors is, of course, the Tesla Supercharging network. The sheer size of the Tesla Supercharging network gives Tesla drivers a huge advantage over other EV brands that only have access to smaller charging networks. For example, the Tesla Supercharging network globally consists of over 30,000 DC fast chargers at over 3,200 different locations. Even if you combine the Electrify America network, which has over 670 locations and over 3,000 chargers, with the Ionity network in Europe, which has over 380 locations and over 1,500 chargers, Tesla's charging network is still substantially larger than these two combined and is generally more reliable. Although Elon Musk has made it very clear that in the future, Tesla will open up the supercharging network to other electric vehicles, when it comes to the current status, there are only 10 supercharging locations located in the Netherlands that have been opened up to other EVs, and this is only a pilot run. I still believe it's going to be some time before we see the entire supercharging network opened up to other EVs, so for now, this still remains a great advantage for Tesla drivers. Because of this, even though the amount of charging needed for this long road trip is very close between the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and the Tesla Model Y, Tesla's supercharging network and the reliability and availability of it definitely gives the Model Y an extra point and helps push it in front of these other electric vehicles for the most practical electric SUV. Beyond the supercharging network, another key reason why the Tesla Model Y is more convenient than the other two runners-up, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 when it comes to long road trips, comes down to the fact that it has more cargo room than these SUVs. One of the main reasons why I believe SUVs have become so popular in the United States is due to the convenience of the added cargo room that they offer over a traditional sedan. When it comes to a long road trip, extra cargo room can especially be important when you need to bring along a good amount of gear or a bunch of suitcases. Having access to a large front trunk and also a large rear cargo area is a huge factor in determining which of these SUVs is the most practical for road trips. The only electric SUV on this list that has more cargo room than the Tesla Model Y is the larger and more expensive Tesla Model X. When it comes to the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5, both of these SUVs, as you can see, have substantially less cargo room and much smaller front trunks than the Tesla Model Y. So once again, with this extra cargo room, this helps make the Model Y a little more convenient over the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. So really, in conclusion, if you're looking for an electric vehicle that can truly replace a gas-burning SUV, not just for everyday use, but also for long road trips, I believe the Tesla Model Y is the clear winner based on this data. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 are impressive, but they do not offer as much cargo room as the Model Y, and they don't have access to Tesla's Supercharging network in North America. Because of this keeps the Tesla Model Y at the top of my list for the most practical electric SUV for long road trips. Well, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. I would like to take a moment to thank the Patreon supporters who support me every month and help make this content possible. A special thank you to my performance supporters and also the other supporters listed on the screen. If you'd like to find out more about the Patreon community I've set up, I'll put a link in the description below. Thank you so much.